Doodlebud. All sorts of pretty pens here on the desk today, and this is one of them. This is the Opus 88 Demonstrator 2022 Color of the Year pen. I think this is a very unique, sharp-looking pen. Beautiful purple. We got some red ebonite accents, all sorts of things. Thanks goes out to the good folks at Appelboom Pens for sending me this for review purposes, so I could get my hands on it and check it out and share my thoughts and findings with everyone who's watching. Overall, I think it's a great pen. There is an issue. See, notice the number of turns it took to get that off. But the issue is with this particular nib. I've run into this before. This is a Jowo number 6 size nib. I love my Jowo nibs. I've written with the extra fines all the way up to the 1.5 stubs. And this is their Fine Flex. This is the second Fine Flex Jowo nib I've had on a different pen, but they end up having the same issue. So I'm going to talk to you about that as well. But let's get into things. I like my Opus pens. They're fun, they're unique, they're pretty cool, and they seem to be priced pretty well. So let's get started. So this is the box the pen comes in. It's got the sleeve. You open it up. There's your pen, nice and secure with the foam. You got your instructions. All that kind of stuff, you know what's in one of these things. It's included. So, but it shows you how to fill up the pen, and it comes with this little dealie, because this is how you fill up the pen. It's an eyedropper pen, but what's unique with this one, I will empty it out so you can see all the good bits inside, is there's a shut-off valve that's in here. So you open, you might think it's a vac filler, but it's not. It kind of looks like one, but I'll explain. I'll show that to you in a bit. But as you can see, let's get that out of the way. It is quite a visually appealing pen. Or maybe you don't like purple, but whatever. I think this thing looks really sharp. And I got an ink in here that I think is my best ink to pen color match so far that I've ever done. So congratulations to me there. Yeah, nice big pen. Feels great in the hand. I think they have cool styling, cool designs. I think this one looks quite neat. But it's kind of, yeah, it's been overshadowed a little bit just by the nib issues. I'll show you how I'm going to fix it. I told Appelboom about it. If you bought a pen from them and you had a nib that was off, you reach out, they take care of you. I asked, what do you want me to do? I can do one of those too. And they said, you know what, show folks how you would go about fixing it. So I thought, okay. So that's kind of cool. They gave me permission to do that. Overall, you can see here, it's a pretty big pen. We got a Visconti Homo Sapien Bronze Age. That's the large size back there. Leonardo Mosaico. Now we got the Opus 88 Demonstrator. My Jinhao X159 and this other new pen that just arrived today. I'll tell you what it is later. The pens were really rolling away on me here on the desk, but here we go. Same ones, caps off. It looks like the Opus 88 Demonstrator is the longest of the bunch. Give you the actual dimensions. First, does it post? No. How big is it like this? That much. What about just the pen like this? That much. How much right there? That much right there. Top of the section, bottom of the section. And that is how much section. Now here's a close-up of some of the finer details. So we actually have red ebonite accent pieces to go with this like purpley acrylic machined body. So it looks quite nice. And then we got some black, as you can see there too. I think this pen looks really nice together. I don't know, something flashback to the 80s with neon, or I don't know what it is. It looks cool. And yeah, we got a little printing on there, as you can see as well. You can see the shape. I don't need to describe it for you. You got eyes while you're looking at this, so you see what it looks like. Yeah, 4 turns to pop off the cap. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a lot of turns. I think like 2 too many. I don't know what it is with Opus 88. They like to have more turns for their caps. Is it a sealing thing? Well, you can do it with multi-start threads. You can get great seals with fewer turns. That's their design choice. It's their choice. It is their choice. But I just think fewer turns would be better. Anyways, I'm just excited to use the pen, and it takes so many turns to get it out so I can use it. Anyways, fits in the hand quite nice. You can see the shape of that section and that texture. It's not like the super soft, warmy ebonite that you get. It does warm up sort of over time, but you know, if you've held an ebonite pen, you know what I'm talking about. Let's say like I have some Moringa ebonite pens. It is a different feeling ebonite on those versus this ebonite. This feels like a little harder. Again, I'm just telling you my feelies, but just thought I'd give you that information. Tiny little step down here, doesn't bother you at all. Nothing sharp, fits well in the hand. It's big, but it's also light. Check out like just the fitment on everything. So you do have your classic little step, as you can see, and that's what that does. You've removed more material here when you machine it than you have here, so it actually gives like a bit of a two-tone going on, I think, which looks really cool. But that seals up against the end of the section here, so you have a nice seal on the pen. Look how close the fitment is on here. If we look at the barrel, that it goes over top of the body here, so it goes beyond that step over top, and it does cover it, and there's like just no gap all the way around that. It is, the machine's really good on these, really great fitment on all these parts, matching up dissimilar materials. You don't feel a seam, no bumps. So build quality on these are really good. On all my Opus 88 pens, I felt it's good build quality and good value, good price, all that stuff. The only issue so far with the pen, too many turns. I can't do anything about that. But just the nib. So let's just get into that part right now, because it's, yeah, if I was ordering one of these, I've had two of the Yovo Fine Flex nibs, and I don't find the flex is really that great on them, and they seem to be a little prone to, it's easy to splay the tines. Haven't done that on here, but also I think it's just due to how these are manufactured and these notches that are cut out. They can be a little prone to canyoning on the very tip here for alignment. So I'm going to show you what canyoning is, show you how it writes right now, what I think's causing it in the manufacturing process, and then I'll fix it, and then we can do a lovely writing sample with this pen, because this pen should be just doing awesome writing, because it's a great pen, very comfortable, looks good, and well priced, and holds a bunch of ink, so it should be writing really well. So let's give it the treatment it deserves. Should have come like that from the factory, but it didn't, so I'll fix it for him. Rhodia dot pad, here we go. The ink is this stuff I got on AliExpress, Carcos Violet. I got a few of their inks. I didn't like any of them, but their violet is really good, and it's fantastic with this pen. And my white balance keeps adjusting on this phone, and it drives me nuts. Okay, so you go to write with it, it comes out, but it's just skippy. I actually just dipped this nib to get it going, and so you can see just all sorts of skips. It's a little better now because I just wetted the nib, but yeah, you can see all the skipping going on. You know, it's smooth and all that stuff, but it's just not doing what it's supposed to do. I'll show you why it's doing that, then we'll fix it, and then we'll show you how it's supposed to write. Here's a look at the canyoning. So we also have a little misalignment going on there too. You can see that tine on the right is lower than the one on the left. But see that slit? It's not parallel. It opens up more at the bottom and it pinches in at the top. That's called canyoning, because it's like a canyon. It can also happen the other way, where it's wider at the top than it is at the bottom, so opposite. And that causes hard starting and skipping issues. The misalignment will do it too. Again, don't do this at home. Should you ever get a pen that you get it and there's a problem with it right away, get in touch with the seller right away. I mean, if it's a used pen you buy secondhand, that's the gamble. But you get a new pen from a retailer, online, in person, wherever, yes, let them know. What we're going to do is, because it's open on the bottom, we just kind of squeeze here on the shoulders a bit, and that's going to do this to it. Now what can happen is, as you squeeze it and do this, the gap gets too close, so then you got to open it a little, and when you open it a bit, it might do this a bit. So it's just it's going to be a mix of first getting rid of the canyoning, so going to the shoulders and pressing down a little bit. I'm going to check on the loop. I'm not going to show every single step. I have other videos I've done this, but I'm going to do this to go like so. We'll check to see, did the gap get too tight? If it's too tight, I'm going to pull apart a little bit. Okay, so separate the gap. I'll check again, because maybe we got a little more of that back, and so it's just going to be that adjustment of shoulders, pull them apart so we can get that slit perfect, and I'll show you how it looks when I feel it's where it should be. Actually, I thought while I'm adjusting this and checking this, I might as well chat with you why I think this is seeming to happen on these nibs a little bit more. I only have one other sample, so I have 2 nibs to compare. That's a terrible sample size, but it was the exact same effect, and I think there's a reason behind it. So it has to do with the cutouts on these nibs. Okay, and so you start off with a strip of steel. It's punched out and then progressively stamped, right? So there'll be little forms, and then it progressively changes it from flat to not so flat, changes it, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden you're left with your finished nib. It might be in one shot go. It might be multiple, not 100% sure on each manufacturer, could be a little bit different. Regardless, it is finished off like that. It has the shape you see now. The tipping gets welded on, and then you slit the nib. Now the process of forming this creates internal stresses in there. That happens in any manufacturing process, okay? But if you can see here, we have some cutouts. So there's sort of a weak point here compared to other spots around there. Now, when you put in the slits, that gives the nib a chance to move, because all the internal stresses are introduced, but they're forced to stay in that one position. You cut the slit, they can do this, they can do this, they can do whatever they need to do, right? Because we have material missing here, what it could do is, it's formed like this, there's a weak point, it's going to come up like that. That's my theory, but I've seen it. I've chatted with someone else and they've kind of had that similar experience. So I think it actually just has to do with the design of these cutouts and the internal stresses that are in here. When you slit it, it just, again, might not happen on all of them, right? I got 2, but I've talked to some other folks. It could be a little more prone to it wanting to go this way after the slitting. So that's my thought on what's going on. Trying to do this to the camera. What's going on with the nib, why it's doing that. So this actually did take a little longer than normal to adjust. We are getting a little shadow on the very front bottom there that looks like baby's bottom or something, but it's not. It's just how the lighting's working. But you can see now the gap is straight up and down. It's parallel, and it's just a hair of a space. I might have to open it a touch more, but I think that'll work just fine. If you care to see it, here is the feed. Now again, I don't recommend doing this to your pen unless you know what you're doing and you're still, I don't know, there's manufacturer warranties, all those type of things. Anyways, I'm just showing you what I'm doing to it. Don't do what I do. Okay, we put it back in. Now, I could have that nib perfectly aligned, and by the time you put it back in, I was very careful, it could still be out a little bit. So I'm going to check out one more time with my loop. And good thing I did check it, because one tine did move just a touch. One was sitting a hair low, so it would have felt a little bit scratchy. I'm going to open up the valve now. So that will allow ink go from the main reservoir down into the section here. Very similar to how a vac filler works. I'm going to get some ink flowing through here. Now let's try the writing after that. So I did some tuning on it, and it's pretty good. It is still just a little bit off. Oh, I'm getting ink everywhere. Yeah, this will be a dirty one. Anyways, it for the most part is good, but it's not quite perfect. You can see as I'm drawing my lines here, there's just the odd little spot. Let's get you in close so you can see just those odd little skips. Those shouldn't be there. It's a nice, lovely ink. We're getting some good flow, good shading. Let's do our figure eights. You know, we're close, but we are just off a little bit. There might be a touch of a baby's bottom on here as looking under magnification, and it seems like the ink is held up just behind the ridge. So if this is your tipping, right, and if the ink is held in here, but the tip is going to touch here because there's a little bit of baby's bottom, it will kind of miss going onto the page a little bit. That's what it sort of looked like. I don't want to get out my pads and start doing that to this nib. I got to return the pen and all that stuff as well. So this was my own pen. That's what I would do. Since I'm sending it back, I adjusted the tines to get them, and they are much better now. But it's not quite perfect. But let me do a writing sample so you can see where it's at now. So despite my best efforts, we're still having some issues here with the nibs. We're getting some skipping. You know, I did that G cross kind of fast, but nothing ridiculous. Another pen would not have done that. So it is off. It's better with firmer pressure if you go slow, but it's still not impervious to it. So we got the case of a bum nib on here. And also, I'm not 100% sure, but I think these nibs are a little bit finicky, a little more prone to issues. I have pens that have Yovo nibs in all the sizes, tons of them, and they always seem to be pretty darn good nibs. They're extra fine up that are stubs. Even my other Opus 88 pens have all been fantastic. But this same nib and another pen, I've had a challenge as well. So anyways, let's move on from the nib, because there's lots of great stuff with this pen. What I want to do is weigh this. I'll show you how you do the eyedropper with it. We'll wait again to see how much it held. So I'm putting this on there as a roll stop. So we got 18¼ grams. Somebody remember that. So what you do, you unscrew the barrel. That's pretty obvious. You have this plunger rod. What this is meant to do is it's like a shut-off valve. This does not suck up ink. Okay, so really just have it closed all the way when you're filling. We're just going to use water because I'm going to be sending this pen back and it's all nice and clean. So I'm just going to fill it up. You can see the water or ink line. Be mindful of how far down the section goes. So you don't want to fill it to the brim, put this in, and then there's nowhere for stuff to go other than spill out. So just kind of right around there, something like that. That's how far you want to fill it, and that'll be your max capacity. We are filled right up. There is the teeniest of air bubbles. I hit tear on the scale beforehand, so I didn't have to do the math. And so we're looking at 3¼ grams, which is 3¼ milliliter ink capacity. So what are my final thoughts on this Opus 88 Demonstrator 2022 Color of the Year pen? I really like it. You know, the packaging is good. You get your eyedropper to go with it, which is quite nice. It's a nice quality little eyedropper, not a cheap plastic one. The pen, I think, looks sharp. The mix of materials with the acrylic and the ebonite, that's great. You get the massive ink capacity. You have the shut-off valve. When you are in writing mode, what you do is you just open this a little bit like that, right? And that way it allows the ink to flow through. You do have some in here in the little section. There is an ink capacity. It's not massive. Obviously, all the ink's up here. So the shut-off valve is there for when you're done your writing. And, you know, especially if you're going on an airplane, that's really great. But just in general, when you're done doing your writing, close it up, put it the cap on, chuck it in your bag. But yeah, you got tons of ink capacity. So this was, you know, if you're a student or something like that, or just you do a lot of writing, if you bleed that through in a day, that's insane. So this is meant for a lot of writing demand because you got tons of ink capacity. It has a bum nib. Yep, we've seen that. I think it has to do with the flex, as I said. If this had a different nib on it, I don't think I'd have any issues. My other Opus 88 pens have all been fantastic out of the box. Nibs have all been great. You know, I have had the same issue on this pen, totally different pen, but same nib as well. So I think we just, maybe this is a bit of a troublesome nib that they got going on with this fine flex. So not my favorite. I wouldn't recommend the nib. I would recommend the pen. The pricing, I think, is very fair. On the Appelboom site, I think it was at 107, I believe. It'll be on there. I'll have a link in the description, but €107. It's a very competitive space for that pricing. I think these do a great job. Actually, quite a few of the Opus 88 pens, I think, are very competitive, and the machining and build quality on here is absolutely great. My only gripe, this, you know, like I said, this one had a bum nib. I haven't had that before, but one little gripe I have across their pens that I find is, you know, in all their pens, is just the uncapping. It's just, especially this one's 4. Some have been 3. We're 3 and a bit. This one's 4. So I don't get it, why there's so many turns. So if that's one thing they could change, is reduce that. But, you know, maybe that's part of their style. I don't know what it is. But that's my only real gripe with the particular pen. Other than that, super comfortable, a cool looking pen. Really excited to use it. Unfortunately, I just haven't been able to use it as much as I want because the nib. It's if I chuck another nib on here, it'd be great though. But that's the big one there. So that's it. I'm done. Thanks again to Appelboom for loaning me this pen here for review. Hope you've enjoyed it. Questions, comments, all that stuff down below. Subscribe if you haven't. Just push the damn button. We'll leave it there and catch you next time.